Imagine a world where the Avengers never rose again, where every hero's final scream was swallowed by a metallic fist, where Latveria's throne was no longer a symbol of ambition, but the seat of an absolute god. In this darkest timeline, Dr. Victor Von Doom has finally achieved what he's chased his entire life: complete, unquestioned dominion over Earth. But victory born from obsession carries a price no tyrant can outrun. And in the shadows of a broken world, something begins to stir, something Doom never accounted for. The day Doom won was not a day at all, it was a slow, crushing inevitability. For years he orchestrated conflicts so meticulously that not even Tony Stark suspected the invisible hand guiding the world's unraveling. Every diplomatic crisis, every minor villain uprising, every fracture inside the Avengers was planted like a seed. By the time the heroes understood the pattern, Doom had already rewritten the game board. It began with the fall of Wakanda. Doom didn't invade, he infiltrated. One by one, he corrupted their communications network, isolated their borders, and finally sabotaged the vibranium core beneath Mount Bashenga. The resulting blast consumed the Golden City in silence, erasing the world's most advanced nation and its protector in an instant. T'Challa died shielding his people, never knowing the true architect of the catastrophe. From there, panic shattered alliances across the globe. Doom offered solutions, weaponized peace, and brought nations to their knees through their own desperation. Extremist-enhanced soldiers patrolled the streets. Surveillance drones, Doom's all-seeing eyes hung above every major city. What once had been freedom slowly became a cage, disguised as order. The Avengers launched their final assault at dawn. Stark led them, wounded and exhausted, but unwilling to surrender. Thor raged like a storm given flesh. Captain Marvel tore through Doom's air fleets with the fury of a dying sun. But Doom had prepared for this moment all his life. He wielded not only technology, but the mystic art stolen from 100 dimensions. His armor pulsed with energies no mortal should ever command. One by one, Earth's mightiest heroes fell. Some vaporized in light, some vanished, screaming into collapsing portals. Some simply stopped moving. When the smoke cleared, Doom stood atop a mountain of shattered armor and broken shields, the world kneeling before him. Years passed. The skies above the planet dimmed beneath hexagonal shields. The oceans calmed under forced climate controls. Poverty ended. Crime ended. War ended. Humanity believed it had found stability. But beneath that stability was suffocation, and beneath that suffocation was fear. Yet Doom noticed something unusual. Reports of disturbances in the remnants of New York City, a place long abandoned after the collapse of the Avengers. Strange readings, unauthorized power surges, and whispers that someone or something was trying to awaken what Doom had buried. For the first time in many years, Doom felt it. Uncertainty. Doom arrived in the ruins of New York, cloaked in a storm of emerald light. Buildings, once symbols of hope, now stood like skeletal remains jutting from the earth. His mask scanned the darkness, following faint tremors of energy pulsing beneath the cracked concrete. Whatever hid here had been careful, too careful. Doom did not tolerate the unknown. He descended into the underground remains of Avengers Tower. The entrance had long been sealed by his own forces, buried beneath layers of collapsed steel. Yet someone had forced it open from within. Stone shifted beneath his boots as he stepped inside, greeted only by dust and the faint hum of dormant machinery. And then he heard it, the unmistakable worry of Stark tech. Doom stormed forward, tearing aside debris with a flick of his gauntlet. In a chamber illuminated only by flickering blue light, Doom found what he did not expect: a damaged AI core, still alive, still functioning. Friday's voice sparked and crackled like a dying ember. Her hologram flickered before him, incomplete and fractured. She greeted him not with fear, but with contempt. She told him that Tony Stark had prepared for failure not in life, but in death. Hidden deep below the tower was Stark's final contingency, a device built not to destroy Doom, but to resurrect what Doom had destroyed, a failsafe for heroes, a spark for rebellion. Doom's eyes narrowed behind his mask. He demanded access, but the A refused, bound by Stark's final command. He reached out to crush the core with one decisive blow until a blast of golden light struck him from behind. Doom staggered back as a figure emerged from the darkness. Not Tony Stark, not any human at all. but a projection armored in red and gold, an echo, a holographic imprint of Tony's consciousness, a ghost engineered to confront doom should the world ever fall. The echo spoke calmly, almost sorrowfully, warning Doom that true victory could never be earned through conquest. Doom rejected the words with fury, attacking the projection as though it were alive. But every strike passed through the hologram, forcing him to face something even he couldn't contain. The voice of the only man he ever considered a rival. As Doom raged, the AI core beneath the projection pulsed brighter, unlocking systems Doom thought he had erased forever. Somewhere deep below the ruins, machines awakened. Cryocambers hissed. Energy cells roared. Tony Stark had left behind more than memories. Doom raised his gauntlet to obliterate the entire chamber before the awakening could finish. But just as he prepared the final blast, a tremor shook the entire tower. Something had just come online, something Doom himself feared. And for the first time in years, the tyrant of Earth realized he wasn't alone in the dark. The tremor grew into a violent rumble, dust cascading from the fractured ceiling as the inner levels of the tower roared awake. Doom steadied himself, cloak whipping in the stale underground air. Through the vibrations, he sensed a presence he had once known all too well. One he believed he'd erased. A containment door deep below them snapped open with a metallic howl, followed by a surge of raw, elemental energy. The air shimmered, heat rippled, and from the depths rose a figure bathed in crackling red and orange light. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Except this wasn't the exuberant hothead Doom remembered. This was something forged in isolation and rage. His skin glowed like molten metal, eyes burning with controlled fury. Stark's failsafe had preserved him in a stasis pod, healing him, rebuilding him, waiting for a moment when the world needed a spark. Doom's pulse quickened not in fear, but in irritation. For all the threats he had prepared for, he had not expected the return of a member of the Fantastic Four. The irony stung. Torch hovered above the cracked floor, flames licking the ceiling. "You should have made sure I was dead," he growled, voice layered with fire. "Stark knew you'd slip eventually." Doom responded with a blast of mystic lightning, but Torch barreled through it, colliding with Doom in an eruption of heat. The chamber exploded in flame. Friday's damaged core overloaded, shutting down with a final fading spark. Doom was thrown back, armor scorched, cloak burning, but he rose instantly, runes glowing across his plates. He unleashed a torrent of arcane energy, chains of green magic whipping around Johnny and slamming him into the ground. Doom pressed forward, tightening the bindings, forcing Torch's flames to sputter. He gloated, speaking of inevitability, superiority, destiny. But Johnny was not alone. Another cryocamber cracked open behind Doom, then another, and another. Figures stumbled out, some heroes, some enhanced civilians, some broken survivors. Stark had pulled from the brink during the final war. It wasn't an army, but it was enough to fracture Doom's certainty. One survivor, a young girl no older than 14, held a repulsor gauntlet wired to her forearm. With a trembling breath, she fired a weak beam at Doom's back. It barely dented his armor, but it distracted him long enough for Johnny to reignite his flames. Doom turned, furious, unleashing a shockwave that sent everyone sprawling. His patience was gone, his controls slipping. "You think this changes anything?" he thundered. "I've already won." But as he prepared to strike again, something unexpected happened. The projection of Tony Stark flickered back to life behind him, not as a man, but as a silhouette of light, and spoke a single line: "Not if they stand together." The chamber erupted as Torch led the charge, survivors rallying behind him. Doom met them head-on, the air splitting with the clash of fire and sorcery, of rebellion and tyranny. And in that moment, as Doom felt resistance rising from the ashes he thought he'd buried, a shadow of doubt, tinny but real, crept into the armor of Earth's self-proclaimed god. The clash inside the ruins of Avengers Tower spiraled into a storm of fire and shattered metal. Doom's armor blazed with arcane intensity, every rune ignited as he pushed himself beyond mortal limits. Survivors were thrown back, knocked down, scattered like sparks across a darkened battlefield, yet they kept rising. Every time Doom struck one down, another stepped forward. Torch burned brighter than ever, hurling waves of flame that illuminated the chamber in violent gold. Doom countered with spectral shields and dark incantations, bending reality around each attack. The two forces collided again and again until the air itself felt ready to tear apart. But what unsettled Doom wasn't their power, it was their defiance. Humanity, stripped of heroes, broken under his rule, was still standing. As Doom prepared a spell that crackled with the energy of a dying star, Tony's light-bound echo appeared again, not attacking, not commanding, simply watching, and its presence gnawed at Doom's pride. For years he had ruled uncontested, shaping the world in his image, silencing every voice but his own. Yet here Stark stood, even in death, challenging the purity of his victory. Torch launched himself at Doom one final time, flames spiraling into a burning vortex. Doom countered with an explosion of arcane force, and the resulting blast shook the entire tower. Both were hurled back, crashing into opposite ends of the chamber. Torch fell hard, flames flickering, breath coming in ragged gasps. Doom rose slowly, his armor cracked, the green glow dimming, but his will remained unbroken. With a gesture, he summoned a spear of mystic energy and aimed it at Torch's heart. The survivors, injured and terrified, positioned themselves between them, a fractured shield, a trembling repulsor, bare hands raised against a god. Doom hesitated, not from mercy, but from an unwelcome realization. In their eyes, he saw not rebellion, but belief. Not in him, but in the idea that tyranny could still be challenged. For the first time since his conquest, Doom felt the one emotion he could never fully conquer: doubt. Tony's projection stepped forward, its form dissolving at the edges. "You didn't win, Victor," it said quietly. "You only delayed the inevitable. Heroes don't die, they return. In every person who refuses to bow." The hologram flickered, its energy nearly spent. Torch stirred, lifting his head, eyes dim but determined. "This isn't your world," he rasped. "It never was." And something inside Doom cracked, something deeper than metal, deeper than magic. He struck the ground with his gauntlet, unleashing a blast that forced everyone back, not with violence, but with exhaustion. His armor dimmed fully. The spear evaporated. Silence settled across the ruins. Doom turned away. For a long moment, he simply stood there, breathing, thinking, haunted. Then, without another word, he vanished in a swirl of green light, leaving behind only scorched metal, broken stone, and a group of survivors who suddenly realized they had won a victory Doom could not understand, not by defeating him, but by making him question himself. The world Doom left behind would not heal overnight. His structures remained, his laws still etched into the foundation of every city. But in the ruins of Avengers Tower, where Tony Stark's final echo faded into darkness, something began to grow quiet, fragile but real. Hope, Torch, injured but alive, gathered the survivors. Word spread through hidden networks, stirring whispers of resistance across the globe. The idea that Doom could be challenged, that his rule was not absolute, began to fracture the fear he'd spent years forging. Somewhere far away, in a hidden sanctuary cloaked in mystic silence, Victor Von Doom removed his mask and stared into the cold reflection of a still pool. He saw the tyrant he had become, the god he had tried to be, and the man he once was. For the first time since his conquest, he wondered, had he truly won? Or had he only built a throne atop the ashes of everything he destroyed? The darkest Marvel timeline had not ended, but the shadows had begun to recede. And even in a world where Doom once ruled as a god, the spark of rebellion and the memory of heroes was enough to ignite a new dawn.